We are entering a new chapter in Pep Guardiola's era at Manchester City. New faces, fresh energy. But with that also comes new problems for Pep.
If they sign Reinders, if they sign Cherky, where's Rodri going to play? Where's Kovacic going to play? Where are all these guys going to play?
Getting the players was easy. Who doesn't want to play under one of the greatest managers of all time for a team that has dominated the Premier League for a decade?
The choice was, in the end, was easy to make, of course.
The hard part will be keeping everyone happy. Cherky, Aït-Nouri, and Reinders is a crazy trio. 3 top players. But Pep's first issue will be how he adjusts these guys into his system. He is a tactical genius. So for 99% of players, there is always a transitional period. His system is one of the most demanding in world football. Even Rodri, who became a Ballon d'Or winner, had some struggles early in his City career until he fully grasped what Pep wanted from him. It's also not just about tactics, but about developing chemistry between the new guys and the rest of the players. Let's start with Aït-Nouri, a natural attacking fullback. This guy's fearless on the ball, he's great at dribbling past players in 1v1 situations, and loves to push high. Pep will have to decide if he can mold the Algerian into this creative outlet from the fullback position, or if his defensive lapses will be too costly. Especially in big games, City can't afford a weak link, especially on the flanks. Remember what happened in 2023? Joao Cancelo was an absolute beast going forward. So good on the ball, so creative, just like Aït-Nouri. But Pep ended up dropping him for parts of the season that year because he was too much of a defensive liability. Now, Aït-Nouri had done well for himself at Wolves, but in that system, he was a left wing back and a 3-back. He wasn't asked to do that much defensively, and even if he was beat, there were still 3 center backs behind him. At City, he's going to be the starting left back in a back 4. That means more defensive responsibility, and on a team where every single error will be under the microscope. So Pep is going to have to find a balance, because in possession, Aït-Nouri gives you another option of creativity. You have a player now as a fullback that can create something out of nothing.
But he's a very much attacking player. He's played as a false 9 for Wolves in a game or 2.
That's a luxury not many teams can afford. Then there's Cherky, one of the most technically gifted players in all of Europe, but even he arrives with a little bit of baggage. Some say that he slows the game down by holding onto the ball too long, while others claim that he's a liability without the ball.
Cherky was not fit for Pep Guardiola's style of football.
In Lyon, he had the freedom to basically do whatever he wanted. At City, there's more of a structure. I'm not saying Pep is going to make him into a robot like the weird narratives that were floating around on Twitter. He gives creative players freedom. It's just going to be about improving Cherky's decision making and putting him in the right positions. If the Frenchman wants to succeed, he'll need to learn when to dribble and when to move the ball. Because again, Pep is no stranger to talented mavericks. Look at what he achieved with Messi, Ribery, Robben, Kevin De Bruyne. When you are a top talent, he gives you the opportunity to showcase your abilities, especially considering how much City need individual excellence, how much they need someone that can just take over a game, break down a bus. That's what Cherky does. Not only does the ball stick to his feet, but he's equally good with both feet. He doesn't rely on pace and power, just fantastic footballing intelligence and great ball control. And he can finish the ball in a variety of ways. Have you guys seen this clip of him in training scoring for fun? Yes, I know it's a training session, but it shows you the amount of tools he has in his locker. He can finesse it, he can power it, he can dink it over the goalie, and of course, he can do it with both feet. Just look at his games for Lyon and France to see it in action. He chipped Onana in Europa League, he volleyed atop bins against Unai Simon in Nations League. Think about how good he is that in a match that had Mr. Best Player in the World Dembele and Mbappe, Cherky was the main attraction. The only issue with Cherky is what he does without the ball. Because in that game against Spain, everyone talked about his goals and assists. But if you look at this clip here, he was late to apply pressure to Dean Housen while Spain were building out from the back. As a result, the 20-year-old center back had plenty of time to pick out Zubamendi, who then had the space to pick out Pedro Porro, who assisted Yamal for the 5th goal. So while Cherky is absolutely a magician on the ball, Pep will have to figure out how he can make the Frenchman also do the dirty work without the ball. Or else we're going to see slander names like Cherkira and Beef Cherky being spammed everywhere. The other player that can bring magic is Reinders.
I'm like a box-to-box midfielder.
Another player that Pep will need to figure out how to maximize. On paper, he's an identical replacement to a young Gundogan. He brings composure and goals. Just like Gundogan, he can dictate play from deep, he can carry the ball on his own, and he can punish teams in the final third. The perfect package as a central midfielder. The only concern for Pep will be Reinders' physicality. He can be aggressive, but winning duels isn't his specialty. It's going to be an even harder task for him as he adjusts to the new speed of the Premier League. Pep will need to figure out the right moments to deploy him, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Reinders has already performed well in big Champions League nights. He has done well at the Euros, so it's not like he isn't used to playing at the highest level. There's just naturally going to be a transitional period. Then for Pep, he has to figure out if he wants Reinders to play deeper like a 6, where he comes in, collects the ball and keeps the team ticking, or does he want Reinders to push more forward, be more involved in the attacking third, try to get goals and assists. It's a puzzle, but if there's one man who loves figuring out stuff like this, it's the bald guy. On top of the new guys, Pep will have to figure out how to adjust in the established guys who are returning from injury. Rodri missed pretty much the entire 2025 season, and his absence was felt every game.
78 matches, just 1 defeat. It just shows what impact this player has, because when he's not there, Rodri, 16 matches, 5 defeats.
It might have been the first time ever that by not playing, a player further enhanced his argument for the Ballon d'Or. He's the spine of the team, but long-term injuries can take time to recover from, both mentally and physically, so Pep has to adjust them back slowly. We also need to adjust our expectations. This is not going to be the same player that we saw before his injury, at least not in the beginning. Then there's Oscar Bob. Before his injury, he looked like the next breakout star, an unbelievable dribbler who, like Cherki, is good with both feet. He could operate on either wing and seem like both the present and future of City. Now he'll have to fight his way back into a squad with even more competition. There's players like Doku and Savinho who also want to start week in, week out. It will be another player that Pep will have to ease back in. That's the tricky part for Pep. He doesn't just have to integrate the new guys. He has to do it in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow and rhythm and mentality of the established stars. Rotations will be key, and the minutes will be very hard to come by. In the past, Pep has always found a way to blend new signings and the trusted stars. But now, with the pressure to bounce back and a locker room full of hungry players that want to make their mark, it means the margin for error is thin. Getting the balance right between developing players and getting results might be Pep's toughest challenge yet. The next issue that Pep has to deal with is making Phil Foden great again. In 2024, Phil Foden looked like that guy. He was him. He had finally shaken off the Wonder Kid label and stepped into the spotlight as a genuine world-class threat. You had Jamie Carragher saying that we were transitioning from the Kevin De Bruyne Man City into the Phil Foden team.
I actually think we're now morphing from the Kevin De Bruyne team into the Phil Foden team.
Whether it was scoring from the edge of the box or creating chances for others, Foden was unstoppable. He had taken the lead, but then came 2025 and everything changed. This was not the same guy who was named the best player in the Premier League. He looked a shadow of himself. No more long shot bangers, no more wonderful runs with the ball. It was the weirdest thing that I had ever seen. It looked like he lost his abilities overnight. Forget Stockport Messi. He was playing like Stockport Garnacho. While his haters might say that 2024 was a lucky year for him, Pep Guardiola won't be one of those doubters. Because if anyone still believes in Foden, it's him. Pep's relationship with him goes back years. He's been watching him since he was a kid at City's academy. When critics said that Foden needed a loan spell, Pep kept him close.
For me, he's got to go on loan. He's got to go on loan.
When people begged for him to play more, Pep insisted on patience. That bond could be the key to unlocking him again. But how? That's the challenge. Because Foden's dip didn't just come from his mentality. It was also a structural issue. The team around him had changed. At times, Haaland was injured. There was no Rodri to provide midfield balance. Foden wasn't finding himself in the same pockets of space that he dominated in 2024. Pep will need to figure out the best version of Foden and how he fits into this new look squad. Should he play in the middle as one of the 10s? That would put him closer to goal and in the areas where he can do a lot of damage. Or should Pep move him out wide again, where he can stretch defenses and cut it onto his left? Both have worked before, but the real issue above everything is confidence. You don't just lose your footballing ability overnight. What Foden needs is belief in his abilities again and to get back into rhythm. With new attacking options coming in, Foden can't afford another slow start. The longer he stays out of form, the harder it will be for him to claw back his spot in a squad that's bursting with technical ability. At the same time though, more talent around him could help his abilities even more. This is why Pep gets paid the big bucks, because these are the situations he has to solve. He doesn't just manage footballers, he manages people. Foden's slump is real, but so is his talent. And if Pep can get him back to his best, City will once again have a weapon that can change games in an instant. And they're gonna need him more than ever before, because for the first time in a long time, Man City will be going into a new season without Kevin De Bruyne. For nearly a decade, KDB was the heartbeat of City's attack. The passes that only he could see, the crosses that only he could deliver. We are talking about a player who missed half the season due to injury in 2024, came back and immediately showed that he was levels above everyone else. He was the face of the team, but now there is a De Bruyne-shaped hole in the squad, a hole that nobody, not even Pep Guardiola, can ignore.
The question now becomes, how do you replace him?
This isn't a simple plug-and-play problem. There is no like-for-like replacement for Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. Pep will have to adjust and rethink the midfield. He will need to bet on the next generation of players. Cherki, Foden, and Echeverri will all have to step up. Let's start with Foden. He's the obvious candidate to shoulder some of the burden, at least when it comes to getting KDB's output. He played with the Belgian for years, he understands the rhythm of the team, the spaces KDB used to exploit. In 2024, when KDB was injured, it was Foden who had stepped up. But being the primary creator, it's different. It's one thing to float between the lines and pick your moments, banging goals. It's another to be that guy who sets the tempo and unlocks deep blocks with just one pass. Foden in reality is more of a finisher than a creator. I'm not saying that he doesn't create, but when you look at his best moments, it's when he's the guy that's finishing the play. So while Foden brings the goals, Cherki will have to provide the creativity. He is two-footed just like De Bruyne. He's not as mechanical as the Belgian because he's more like an artist, but he still knows how to create something out of nothing. He knows how to get out of spaces that are tighter than Shrek's bum. He has the vision, the flair, the unpredictability. But does he have the discipline to actually play in that role? Because De Bruyne was somebody who could start an attack with just one pass. Cherki, on the other hand, is someone who likes to take a lot of touches. So Pep will have to find a way to maximize his creative upside. And then we have Echeverri, a talented teenager and one of the most exciting young playmakers in world football. He's got that South American edge to his game. He lit up youth tournaments for Argentina. He was fantastic on River Plate, and he's already shown flashes of his brilliance at City. But is he ready now? Pep will have to be careful. He's gonna have to nurture his growth without rushing him into a role that he might not be ready for. In the short term, the output that KDB provided will have to be spread around among different players. And replacing him isn't something that you do overnight. And I'm not just talking about tactics, I'm talking about the psychology of the team. For years, players looked to Kevin De Bruyne when things got tough. I mean, that pic of him tying his shoes before he raw-dogged Aston Villa is now iconic. But now, someone else will have to step up in his absence. For the first time in a long time, Pep will have to figure out what it means to create without his most creative player. Now, if there's one thing that City need to do more of in the upcoming season, is to play direct. For all of Pep Guardiola's tactical brilliance, his sides sometimes look like they're stuck in slow motion. They're controlling possession, but doing it without a purpose. Haaland was making runs, the space was there, but the passes, they came too late, or didn't come at all. City have the tools now to break apart teams in transition. Omar Marmoush is one of the main reasons why. The Egyptian is fast, aggressive, and fearless when attacking open space. He thrives in chaos. He's not a tiki-taka type player. He's a direct runner who wants to attack. Pair him with a fully fit and firing Erling Haaland, and you've got two players who can give defenders nightmares. That is, if the ball gets to them quickly enough. This is where Pep has to evolve. City don't need to abandon their identity, but they do need to find a better balance. Sure, dominate the ball, dictate the tempo, but don't waste the speed that you finally invested in. There were too many games in the previous seasons where Haaland made 5 or 6 runs behind the defense and never got the ball, and you could see him get frustrated. The same thing happened with Marmoush in his first few games at City. These are players that thrive off service, especially when a ball is played into space. So that means that City's midfielders and wingers need to play with more intent, more verticality, and less hesitation. The blueprint is there. Remember how lethal City looked back when they had Sane and Sterling on the wings? They need to return to being that ruthless again. Then of course, we can't forget about the defense. For years, Lincoln Burrows from Prison Break was the rock on the right of City's defense. His speed was like a cheat code. He could always catch up no matter the situation. But then, his form fell off a cliff.
Some of his defending over the years is shocking.
And now he's gone. So Pep Guardiola is left with a question he hasn't had to ask himself in a long time. Who locks down the right? I think Pep is hoping that Husinov can take over. He certainly has the speed and aggression, and since he's so young, he can only get better. But can a teenager be relied upon to track world-class wingers one-on-one for over 90 minutes? Can he stay switched on in big games? I think he can, but it's still something that Pep has to be wary of. Then the other issue is that behind him, the depth is thin. There's not a lot of guys at City who are lining up to be a right back. It's why the club has been targeting Livramento. If he arrives, Pep gets more options, and he needs them, because defensively, the team as a whole have to improve. They leaked far too many goals in 2025. Manchester City's squad is stacked. Now that's a blessing and a curse. With the arrival of new signings like Cherki, Reiners, and Marmoush, plus the return of injured players like Bob and Rodri, Guardiola has more options than ever. But more options means more egos to manage, more players asking, why am I not starting? Pep has always embraced competition for places. It's one of the reasons that City has stayed so dominant for so long. Rotations won't just be about strategy, they'll be a necessity, because City are in so many different competitions that they need to be able to rotate without a drop off in quality. Can they win the treble again like they did in 2023? Only time will tell. But to do that, they will need that version of Haaland again. To see how good the Norwegian robot was that year, you have to check out this video right here.